All right. Well, I got to be honest. One of the big things that I really do want to see in the 2024 election, and if people worded things differently, election integrity would be on the top of everybody's mind, as it should be. And it seems like it's on the top of my next guest, Johnny Vieira's mind. That's why he's created the app Votify Now. And I think, Johnny, I like to say one leg up. You might be having one leg up on election integrity. Tell us about this app and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, VotifyNow is basically a platform that I'd say the inception started probably before even 2020. I got to thinking around 2016 when people like Stacey Abrams was more fresh on our minds, Hillary Clinton, the left was certainly talking about election issues long before 2020. We started this build around 2019 to try to give both the left and the right, it's a nonpartisan, bipartisan, excuse me, app, or I guess you could say nonpartisan. Um, and the whole idea was for us to just bring more transparency to elections. We're just basically we aggregate incidents that are happening that users are reporting in their area, and then in a real specific and secure way, we share these incidents with everybody in the area so that everyone gets a quick view within minutes, and it's all in real time. Everybody could take a look and see what's happening around them, and they might change or alter their voting plans based on what's happening in their communities. So that's the core of what Votify Now does. It does do several other functionalities. There's a canvassing tool. There is a section devoted to city council and school supervisor elections and meetings. We have a border concern with the borders being open, but these, especially as we get closer to important election cycles, these other areas are sort of on the back burner because the whole ball game is election integrity, and that's what we're focused on. We absolutely don't get involved in influencing anybody's vote. In fact, that is a taboo around here. No, I'm talking purely about where someone might vote or how they might, what style. Are they going to do an early? Is there problems with early mail-in? Do they want to do the day of? So I'll give you a perfect example. Let me give you a quick synopsis of the two functionalities that Votify Now does. A user downloads the app, and we encourage everybody to download it. They can go to App Store for their iPhone or Google Play Store for their Android phone, or go to our website, which is a hub of information and the download links. That's votifynow.org, and Votify spelled Botifynow. But the two functionalities is a user would go, they would download the app, make sure that you check your junk and spam folder for the verification code. We get so many people asking us, where's my verification code? But once they have the app, they can go to the election integrity section and they can very easily report a description of what they're seeing as far as what they're suspecting of nefarious, or maybe they just don't know what they're seeing. So they're reporting something that could be perfectly harmless. They report the incident. They could take a quick photo or up to a 30-second video of the incident, and then it's automatically time-stamped and geo-targeted where they're at. And that they hit the submit button, that incident comes to our secured servers. All this is all happening through APIs at split seconds. And then once we have the incident, again, within seconds, we have some real smart functionality that sort of looks for false flags. And I can't obviously publicly tell you what our defenses are against fake or false flags. We don't want to give the bad guys, our plans, but we vet these incidents. And then we go ahead and we turn around and we put the incident on the user, all the users in the area's phone. So if you're in New York, and I don't know your counties out there, but you're in a county in the state of New York, you report an incident, it will automatically, that incident gets turned into a dot, and the dot gets placed exactly where the incident happened on the map so that other users can go onto the app, They go to view the additional incidents section, and there they'll see where they're located, and they'll see these dots around them. The dots represent all the reports. They're color coded, red being the most nefarious, all the way yellow, orange being lesser serious, and then white being sort of a benign. We have a brand new dot, by the way, called blue, a blue dot, which is it means it's unverified. We're still in the middle of verifying it, but we decided we're going to share it anyways. The reason these dots are so helpful is that when the user goes to the additional incidents, so again, the app is used to report incidents or also go check and see what's happening around them. And once the user opens up the additional incident section, they see themselves, they see the dots around them, and then they click the dot, and the full description of the incident, along with the photo and video, opens up, and the users can see what's happening in real time. So maybe they were planning on voting in the north part of town, and there's a bunch of red dots, meaning all kinds of nefarious activity. Well, if they have the option, I don't know if New York City has it, but if different counties around the country have the option to vote in multiple places, maybe they might choose to vote somewhere else or do something different based on the information that they're seeing. We don't influence anybody. We just share what other voters in the area are doing in a real fast way so that maybe people can avoid long lines, or maybe people are reporting broken voting machines or whatever the situation is. All we do is share that in a real timely manner. We let people see what is being shared so they can make their own decisions.
Well, a couple of things here. That feels like the Citizen app here in New York, where we get to see exactly like a pinpointed hot zone, if you will, on the Citizen app. And I don't know if you
Are you talking
work your
about
app based on
the crimes?
Yeah, exactly. So
It is something like that. It is something similar, but we go into the weeds a bit, and we're not controlled by any state or municipalities. This is a sort of a private citizen app. And also it's decentralized. It's not controlled by any one party. But for example, we would give the state of New York the access to work with all the app users in New York. We don't want one company controlling all this information that comes in from the app. So the goal of the app is to section off all these different counties or states so that the proper officials and party leaders can have access to working with their own constituents, helping out, so basically in the best case scenario, a secretary of state would have their VotifyNow for their state, and they could be the ones responsible for helping out their voters in what could potentially be problems. We don't, ever use certain terms, but there is election irregularities, I think is safe to say, abnormalities, and we just present them to the users and allow them to make their own decisions. And whenever go ahead, sorry.
If politicians use that term irregularity or election integrity, obviously it may not be spicy, right? It sounds a little more, how do you say, it sounds a little more academic to say integrity. But that would get the point across even more than just saying this word or that word, right? I feel like they don't couch it the right way, and you'd agree with me.
Yeah, 100%. And if I have another quick minute, I'd like to share with you the second functionality, which is equally important. That first one with the incidents being turned into dots on a map so that voters can see. The second thing we do is all the incidents, they're also vetted, and then they're turned into PDF reports. And we send these PDF reports, the incidents that are all filed properly in a report. We send these reports out to party officials, law enforcement, independent journalists. We send the incidents every 30 minutes on election day to those officials so that they're seeing what's happening in their communities in real time, and they can make decisions. We no longer do we think any candidate should find out any election irregularities days later. We want them hearing about anything that's happening at 9:00. We want them to know about it by 9:30 a.m. And we put another report out and so on throughout the day, so that party leaders, journalists, law enforcement can look into these things and be kept up to speed. So that's sort of the mission of Votify Now. We were very active in the midterms for 2022. We our evidence that was generated from Votify Now was key in the Carrie Lake case, even though, of course, we're not involved in the outcome. The judge can do whatever they want, but we were the ones that gave her legal team, Carrie Lake's legal team, the incidents about the misprinter ballots shrink to fit, not fitting in the machines properly. That was a Votify Now incident, and that was the staple of their case. Again, we can't control whether they win or lose, but we did accomplish our mission in getting evidence and having the evidence used in a case. So it's a two-pronged approach. We supply evidence to the authorities and candidate teams, and we also give the users this information in real time to help them. And Votify Now has been very successful at doing those two things.
All right. Obviously, in New York, we are 8 million people. There's a lot of frustration on voting day, even in the early voting, all the lines through the blocks. And are you telling me Votify Now could possibly help you figure out which is the best what do they call it? Voting precinct, I guess you'd say, polling place to go in your district there?
Well, again, not being familiar with every single precinct in the country, I don't know if the particular area you're talking about, there's only one place that you could vote. Some places they dedicate a specific precinct location that if you live in this area, you vote here. Others let you pick. So I can't speak to that specifically, but what I can tell you is if someone wants information on that precinct, I can guarantee you there's probably been some Votify Now users already reporting on that location. And then again, whatever the user wants to do is purely up to them. All we do is present them with the information in a timely manner, and I'm talking about within minutes, so that they can make their own decisions. Again, some places I think the voter still has to go to their location, and we don't pretend to solve every problem. We're only just trying to help the process a little bit with transparency and quick information. And we feel that if we could even make a small difference in strengthening election integrity, then we've sort of, we've completed our mission and we've done our civic duty.
Well, I got to say, there was a debate this week, so I think mindsets are starting to turn into 2024 almost every day, right? So
and New Jersey, we're really looking for users in New Jersey for you. You guys have an upcoming November election. I'm not sure if it's a gubernatorial race, but I know New Jersey's got an important election. So please, New Jerseyans, sign up for Votify Now. And if you see something, say something, report it on the app.
Well, I'm glad we're gonna pinpoint New Jersey on this. But yes. I gotta ask you this. I feel like you have this mission as the founder, CEO of Votify Now, to instill voter confidence again, because we do know that voter confidence is quite low. I don't know if that's a buzzword that'll cancel this podcast, but it's a truth. There's a lack of voter confidence, and maybe this app's going to help instill more confidence in our elections.
There is a lack. I mean, we get thousands of emails a week, and there is a major lack of confidence. And again, all we do is try to boost that confidence by just shining a light on it. Votify Now could be looked at as just a light that we try to shine on whatever's happening. And by the way, if there's no irregularities, then there'll be no report. So there'll be nothing to see when anybody opens up the report. So if everything is crystal clear elections, then beautiful. By the way, we're hoping that everything is clean and there's no reports coming in. But if there is anything coming in that looks suspicious and we feel is a genuine incident, we're going to share it and we'll let voters decide what they want to do with that information.
We all know, to be honest, how the media feels about election integrity, and they sometimes shy away from it. And is that a tussle to get this out to the media, or do you find it an easy connection with them? Hey, we got this incident. Can you report on the news? Like, how does that work?
Well, that's a great point. And that's a really good question. So right now, we have had our challenges getting our friends on the left to embrace the app, only because right now, I think the term quote election integrity is not popular with the left, but I certainly remember Stacey Abrams' gubernatorial race. I believe it was 2016. And I remember hearing a lot of stuff about election problems then. And also, I remember Hillary Clinton mentioning a lot of issues in 2016. So it wasn't always where it was just conservatives talking about election integrity. But you are right. We do have a lot of conservative users, but the app is definitely a bipartisan app. We definitely encourage anyone on the left or the right to report anything that they think might be worth sharing. And I'm really hoping and planning in the future to get more incidents from the left.
Johnny, I'm sure you're well known in these circles with this app and whatnot, but maybe people don't know your story, how you wanted to start this app. Maybe you faced some voter frustration over the years, even just watching the news. Like what inspired you
No,
to do this?
no, unfortunately, I don't have any story that sexy. No, I'm really not a political guy. I come from an inventor, entrepreneur, startup background. So pretty much ever since I was a kid, and a lot of founders can, whether it's a Zuckerberg or a base, it's almost the same story. You're always trying to solve a problem. Most things fail, especially when it's a business model. And this is all I've ever done, pretty much. Dropped out of college, and this is pretty much all I've ever done. I built my first little company when I was a teenager, probably 14 years old, and they were still selling, which I'm, aging myself a bit. They were still selling cellular phone products. So I tried to create a catchy name called ABC, America's Best Cellular Products. And funny enough that it was actually a red, white, and blue logo with the country, America's Best. That's just a funny coincidence. That was the very first company I started where I would buy stuff. Originally, I'd have to buy stuff, retail almost prices, and then mark it up. And that was my first business, a little brick and mortar. Eventually I found a wholesaler overseas and was bringing stuff in, but I was in high school, and then eventually went into other areas. Most recently, I built a large platform for a financial company who wanted to modernize their brick and mortar. It was called Tribefluence. It's still live. And in fact, the company never used it, but they did acquire it. They ended up giving it back to me, which was that's a whole nother story, because with COVID and most of their staff, they had to lay off. So they said, we don't want this to go to waste. But it was a big system similar to VotifyNow. It solved a problem that this financial company had. And it was the same sort of thing. There was a website that held everything. And then there was an app for Android and iPhone, and the app performed a solution to this financial company's problem. So that was around 2018 that they acquired and took that over. And then by 19, it gave me the time to focus on my next thing. And I knew election integrity was something I wanted to conquer. I felt a personal kind of duty. And this is even before 2020, so I guess I was a little ahead of my time. But I knew that I had the right solution in my head. But of course, trying to digitize all that, even with a full development team, still took about 3.5 years to build this. We went live about 2 years ago. And of course, it was a clunky release with lots of bugs. But by the time the midterms came around in 2022, we were up and functioning. We had thousands of reports coming across the country. Unfortunately, we weren't a big enough name that a lot of the candidates were using our info. It was used in the Kerry Lake trial. But for these upcoming elections in November of 2023, I believe it's Virginia, New Jersey, Kentucky, and Louisiana, we really are focusing on having a strong presence. And then, of course, we're going to really be ready to go full guns blazing for the general in 2024.
Do you hope this app inspires the generations after you and me and others to get to the polls? Is this app going to help revolutionize the Gen Zers? I mean, that they can get to the polls. Is that a hope for you?
Well, we certainly would love to be a part of that. We don't think necessarily one platform can do such a monumental thing, but sure, we would like to be a part of that movement to get people motivated. And the great thing about Votify Now is it lets the everyday citizen be involved in sort of citizen policing elections, or at least citizen journalism, being able to report what they're seeing and then share it with others. And that's what Votify Now was made to do. And we do think that it will inspire people to get more involved. We've already got a lot of people excited about it, and we've had some great interviews. John Solomon, Just the News, those guys just did a big piece on us. And it's the user base is growing. We've probably got somewhere between 200 and 500,000 users. We're looking to get to about 2 million to 3 million users by the general, and we're on track to hit that mark, and that's where we'll make a significant difference.
All right. A lot of apps today are facing the whole, do they censor people? Do they not? And let's be honest, you have to stay on these big tech platforms, as we were discussing a bit off air. So if a user starts saying, oh, well, this word, that word, are they allowed to stay on, or are there rules to how you can report so you guys can keep that platform?
That's an interesting question. No, well, I'm glad you brought that up. We encourage everybody to download the app now as soon as possible. Share it with everybody, because once you download the app, you've got the app forever. What we can't control is if the app ever gets removed or pushed off of one of these app stores. But we follow the rules and their TOS, their terms of service, to the T. And both Google Play Store and and App Store are extremely strict about following. So there is nothing on our apps that are not with the blessing of those agencies. And again, we're doing nothing more than just letting people share information. But if you're asking me, would we, if someone is trying to report bogus information, would we tolerate it? Probably not. If we catch anybody trying to plant a false flag, I can guarantee you they're instantly deleted. We're not even going to have a conversation with them, because if you're planting a fake incident, you've got extremely nefarious intentions. It's not now, and that's completely separate than somebody reporting something that's just benign and harmless. That we probably just it probably gets wiped out before it even hits us, because we have some AI and some smart functionality that's really looking at things closely before it ever makes it to us. It's sort of vetted for being a bot or but assuming it makes it to us, if it looks harmless, we will report it. We'll share it anyways. And again, that's where the color coding of the dots come into place. That kind of an incident that we can't tell looks probably harmless, but we don't think somebody's up to no good. We don't think someone's planting a false flag. Then we would give a white dot, and that means that this is probably a harmless or a benign incident. I think yellow is the next level, which would mean it's the next stage. Orange, and then red means this is probably something suspicious. People should probably take a look. Now, we don't want our users to only look at red incidents, red dots, but that's why we did the color coding. And then again, a brand new feature is the blue dot. And the reason this is so important is because some incidents take longer to verify than others, yet still might be valuable. So we've created this blue dot, which means the incident has been reported. It hasn't been thoroughly vetted. Otherwise, it hasn't gone through all the processes that it does to get a color code. But we still let the user, a pop-up box appears and says, hey, this is still being vetted. Do you still want to take a look at it? The user can say yes or no. And then also, we will let the users report as a fake. If the user feels that unverified incident is a fake incident, we let them report it. And of course, I can't give the number out, But if there is a certain number of reports on incidents being reported as a fake, then it calls our attention over to take a closer look at that incident. And if we feel that it's not a genuine incident, we will remove it. So that's why that's the purpose of the blue unverified dot, which is very important.
Well, Johnny Vieira, real fast, obviously it's a big deal to be in that involved with the Carrie Lake case and what she's fighting down there. Johnny, a couple of things. There's a push to get the lever right back to the lever form of voting, where you pull the lever, and whatever else the high tech stuff goes out the window. / paper ballots come back in. Would that put you out of business, or are we? What I mean by that is, would paper ballots be the answer, or is this
By
election
the way,
irregular?
I don't see that happening soon. Sorry for interrupting you there.
No
I
worries.
don't see that happening soon. And by the way, if there's anything that puts election irregularities or abnormalities, if there's anything that puts that out of business, I'll be the first to vote for. I'll be the first in line. So that's one of those things. We should be so lucky that everything goes so clean that there's no need for Votify now. So no, I don't feel that way at all, and I don't see that happening in the next 2 election cycles. Maybe 2032. I don't know. Maybe 2028. I doubt it. That's a very complex issue, and that's way beyond my pay grade. I'm not a politician, and I don't get involved in that. I'm a problem solver, and Votify Now is just solving the problem of voter lack of voter confidence and trying to make these election issues more transparent, where more folks can see what's going on quicker, so that maybe helps them understand what's happening, and they can make decisions on how they want to, where they want to go. Again, it's up to them. All we do is present the information that others are reporting. We've got no horse in the race, as they say, or dog in the race, whatever the expression is.
Johnny Vieira, you mentioned that this is a bipartisan app. So, have you gotten Washington's stamp of approval? Have you gotten senators and Congress people to notice the Votify app, or
On the
what's that
left, do you mean on the left? You mentioned bipartisan.
Well, yeah, because it sounds like you guys are sort of a bipartisan app. So does that mean you have bipartisan voters, or actually approval on both sides to,
I
you
know. Well,
know,
keep in mind, we're still a pretty new, so 3 years is brand new in the app game. Yeah, the 2022, the elections that are coming up about 10 months ago, that was our first real proof of concept. So I would say, again, ask me that question after 2024. We're just now getting to the point where we're getting party leaders. Yeah, we're not that well known. We're probably the most well known because Votify Now has been around the longest. There is no other election integrity app. There is a bunch of these BS. I almost cursed because I get so enraged. There's a bunch of these BS election integrity websites that people claim, you can report something. Really, all it is a WordPress website that somebody, my 9-year-old niece could build a WordPress website in a day, and you could report the incident. And then, of course, they have a bunch of donate buttons. So that's, for the most part, all there is out there besides Votify Now. So we're finally starting to rise above the noise. People realize, okay, this is the real deal. Also, we don't take any donations. We don't take a dime. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't, bring on a Peter Thiel or a, insert your big super donor's name here. It's like, doesn't mean we wouldn't do that. We need at some point help, because we can't just keep, funding everything out of my pocket. It doesn't work that way. It could not sustain. But that said, I refuse to take donations, especially with people hurting out there. There's no way we're going to take just a regular family who's concerned about their elections. There's no way we're taking their money. They shouldn't
right?
have those election concerns. So we're sure as hell
Love
aren't going to
that.
take money.
I love that idea. They shouldn't be concerned with the way the election process
Right.
and the voting concerns. All right, you mentioned John Solomon. He's a friend of the radio station I work with. He comes on a lot. But what about the liberal side? I mean, can they come on? And especially, I'm thinking of like Democracy Now with Amy Goodman. Isn't preserving democracy like what you guys are about? Come on now.
Let me tell you, let me tell you something, man. Oh man, if you knew how hard I've tried, and I'm going to keep trying to get the left mainstream media. By the way, I'm 100% convinced they will start talking about it very soon. It's one of those things that they'll ignore you till they can't ignore you. But we certainly make an effort to try and get them to talk. And by the way, I'm 100% prepared to be interviewed by a mainstream media outlet and I'm ready to be grilled and thrown under the bus. I'm ready
Yeah,
to
but
be
it's just
thrown under
funny
the
to me
bus.
that these media outlets are saying how democracy is dead now because of a certain someone in the White House from 4 years ago. Yet they don't want to take the steps to ensure democracy, which leads me to my next question, Johnny Vieira. Are we a republic or a democracy? I think that's the age old debate, isn't it?
I don't, that's a civics 101 question. I think the right answer is a republic. But again, I don't claim to be any scholar. I mean, even though that's a basic question, I'm purely a problem solver, and I've got a knack of being able to do it now technically, which of course everything happens online if you're trying to solve problems, unless you're building a bridge.
Do you have people
Now,
on the ground in every city, or is it just you, or how does that work?
well, I'm not going to get into details on how big our reach is, but we've got hundreds of thousands of users. And I will share one important aspect. If anybody goes to VotifyNow.org, there's an explainer video that's brand new. It automatically plays when you go to VotifyNow.org, and you can also download the app there. And in that video, it explains how the app works. And then, equally important, it talks about our co-admin panel. The co-admin panel is, an admin panel is the back end that controls the app. That's where you can set the functionality. And we've intentionally, we created a co-admin panel with the pure intentions of making this decentralized so that every state or county can have their own access and work with their own constituents, their own state's app users. So it's a co-admin, looks just like the admin panel that the master admin panel that Votify Now uses, but we give them a copy of it and we assign the state to them. So that's the end game, is complete decentralization, where every state or a group of counties within the state, however it works out, could have their own co-admin access and work directly with their users. Now, right now, we don't have a lot of that, again, because it's still relatively new, but that's the plan. And we would give access to folks on the left and the right, that access, because we monitor and we could quickly see if anybody's up to any funny business once we hand them over the admin access to the voter and app users in their state. We could quickly see if they're up to any funny business, in which case we, at the click of a button, we shut off their access and they would no longer have
Well,
access. But other than that, we do not get involved. If you are a Secretary of State and you take over Votify Now, you would get access to the co-admin panel. You would create a username and a password, and then you can go ahead and change your password to a private password that we don't have access to, and you could go ahead and work with your own app users in your area. Again, as long as we would just check in, we have certain things. Again, I can't give up company secrets. We have certain things that would sense, not an algorithm, but other things we use to detect if there's, for example, if there's mass deleting happening of incidents. So we have certain things that would get triggered to make sure that we're not handing it to any bad actors, handing the access. But it would be open to any party leaders on both the left and the right, because in my opinion, the app won't truly be successful, the platform, I should say, until it is embraced by both sides of the aisle. And that's the mission.
well, I'm so glad you mentioned secretaries of state. Obviously, last election, a lot of secretaries of state were under fire, if you will, by both sides. So, um, is it important to have that connection? Like, hey, you want to put on a healthy election for your state? Hey, get in touch with us. That would be a big step, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I was working with, had a relationship with Mark Fincham when he was running for Secretary of State of Arizona, and he was a great endorser. He was talking about Votify Now leading up to his election, and it was amazing because by him speaking about it, it really gave us a lot of users. That's why we encourage and we try so hard to get involved with these candidates, because when the candidates talk about the app, their potential constituents listen. And it only can help the candidates by people reporting anything they see that they feel is um, suspicious, let's call it. Now, that would have been a perfect pilot program if Fincham would have got in as Secretary of State. The plan would have been that he would have got one of these, co-admin access, and he would be using, him and his team would be using Votify Now as part of their, I'm sure, part of their fuller, it'd be one spoke in the wheel, I'm sure, of, what they're doing. Again, that's above my pay grade, but they would have used it, and he would have handled Arizona, and Arizona would have officially been off of the Votify Now's things to do list, So unfortunately, he did not get in, and we have not been asked by their new Secretary of State. I think his name is Fuentes, but certainly it's available. Again, we make the app, the co-admin access available for any leaders, whether they're on the left or the right.
Well, Johnny, I hope I didn't confuse the listener by asking these questions, but I get where you're coming from, that it's only citizen based. We want to have people having an easier election experience on the ground as a voter, not so much as an official, basically.
100%. Right. Everything's citizen based. We're just helping out. Well, by the way, we do offer to get involved with the candidates, but then the candidates would use Votify Now as just one of their many tools, and then they decide what they want to do with that information. We just present them. Again, think of Votify Now as a light that we shine in real time on what's happening, and we feel that that's what's missing right now in elections. So we're just hoping to make things more transparent. And again, if there's nothing to see there, if there's no there, then beautiful. That would be a good thing.
All right,
It's one of
I
those
feel
things
like
where,
we have to have you back because I could talk about this. And obviously, you're launching this press tour, if you will, now on the heels of the big year coming up in 24. Will this also be in effect during the primary season as well?
sure. But mostly the special elections coming up in those 4 states that I named: Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Virginia. That's November 2023. But certainly we are involved months ahead of time with early mail-in. We had a lot leading up to the midterms. We had many, many people reporting issues on mail-in. You wouldn't believe the stuff that we got. People like, I've received 10 ballots, or there's a pile of ballots in my apartment complex, a stack of them, 100 or what, or other abnormalities of someone telling me they got, and by the way, they provide the evidence, they show the image, getting a text from this, from the officials. This happened a lot in Arizona, where they would get a text saying, this is, so-and-so election board. We want to let you know that we received your ballot and verified your signature, so know that your vote has counted. And then they would pan over and show their ballot in their hand, not even sent out yet. And I thought, wow, that doesn't seem, I think that might go into the orange or red category as suspicious, because how do you get told that your vote was counted and you're sitting here holding your ballot in your hand? It's like, it's unbelievable. There's no way Votify Now works if we have to be behind any red tape. We'd be dead in the water. The whole idea of Votify Now being run by people for the people, a citizens tool, is that there is no red tape. And that's how we're able to share things instantly with people, because there's no government red tape that's, It's just here's what someone's. And by the way, we're not doing anything different than what somebody would go to vote and then they post something, a picture on Twitter and say, hey, you guys, this is weird. Look on Twitter. I mean, that happens. We're just trying to really scale that up to happen nationwide.
Well, Johnny Vieira, thanks so much, and we will definitely have you back on as this app is out there. I'm going to download it myself, check it out, and I'll let
Yeah.
you know how it is.
Please do. And I appreciate the time and encourage everybody to download Votify Now. That's spelled VotifyNow. Go to votifynow.org for all the information and links, or go to your app store for your particular phone and download it. And I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
That was Johnny Vieira. He has one leg up on election integrity with Votify Now. Stay tuned for more on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.